Hi class. As we begin our work with databases, your past experience is going to come into play with how much work you need to do in preparation. I've posted a video from an Access database course that is an introduction to Access that you should watch if you have no database experience. Additionally, there is a Code Academy course . Let's see. Oh, look, by language, SQL. And we can go through the Learn SQL from Scratch course in Code Academy. Now, note that this is an intensive thing because there is a lot to databases, but you can break it up a little bit and learn just a little bit about SQL. So that should be enough to get you going with C#. We'll be using basic select statements and creating basic database tables in our class. So I'm going to show you how to do that as we go. So be sure you're watching the videos for this chapter. In our textbook, things start to get a little flaky. We see that often in the ending chapters of textbooks where it's hard to pull the examples together. So we'll be working through a lot of the examples in our textbook through our videos so that you can have some help with those. Now I'm going to try to zoom in on this. As you can see, it doesn't like to zoom in on the area I would like to zoom in on, but we're going to create this little member table in Access. So that's how we're going to go about it first. After we create the member table in Access, we'll create a Visual Studio C# application to utilize that table and display information from it. Then we will create the same database using the SQL server so that you can see how SQL, the language itself, is compatible across the different types of database servers and how easy it is for you to change your code to access one database versus another. So this table is going to be called the member table. We're going to have information in it about students. It's going to be very much similar, again, to our other student class projects that we've worked on for other chapters. So let me move this out of the way and get started with opening Access. Remember, when we create an Access database, we start out with a blank database and we must specify where to save that database before we can continue. So we're going to name this memberDB. And I want you to find a location to save this database that's going to be meaningful for you. So I'm going to move mine. And save it. Now, once I am ready and have it in the right location, I can click Create. The database will be created and saved for me automatically. Now, Access takes me in directly to design mode in a data grid view for this table because it can tell that it is a new table. I'm going to switch, I think, to design view. And we'll name our table MemberTable. Now, the first field that we want is going to be student ID. Right now, Access has that data type set is an auto number, which means the student ID would be automatically generated by Access. It's going to generate it as a long integer. We could change that if we wanted, but not to very many different options, because in order for Access to automatically generate a unique student ID for every row we add to our student table, it feels safest using a long integer. Now, if you notice, we can go ahead and allow Access to create a no duplicate index on this data field, on this column, and make it our primary key. So in the example in our textbook, they're typing in the student ID, We wouldn't necessarily need to do that if we allowed access to create it as an auto number. Let's make sure things are similar to our textbook, and we'll go instead with our short text. Now that does give us quite a bit of information there. So let's shorten that down to like maybe 10 digits. Now, Access itself will keep track of that unique key on the student ID as a short text field, but of course we would be a little bit more efficient in our database if we made it an integer. I'm going to have a last name field that will also be a short text. I'll make it like 50. And then I'm going to have a first name, short text, 50, and a phone number. And our phone number we will also make short text. I'll leave 50 because we don't know where they are and what all kinds of things they're going to do. Now that's really showing all of the columns that we need in our little member table. So I should be able to save that. And I can switch now to Datasheet View and enter some data. 2, 6. And we're not really going to have any edits going on, but I will make my data pretty similar to what's in our textbook. 28790. As we're creating our data, we can be testing and making sure that we have everything set properly in our database. Oftentimes, as we enter our test data, is when we'll determine that there may be a design issue or even a definition issue in our database. I'm going to put a few more rows here. Gary. This is Springfield number, right? And of course, if I wanted to add additional columns to my table, I could here, where it says click to add, I typed in a new column name. Access would automatically allocate that. And our last one, as we're typing in test data, it's easy for us to not worry about typos and case and things. But remember, sometimes our data is actual people's names and information, and they do get very concerned about there being errors in their name. Okay, looks great. I have a little table here. Now I could create a query if I wanted to, an SQL query. Let's look at our create menu. And let's say I wanted to use the query wizard. I'll save this and I'll close it. Oops. And I want to use the query wizard. I want to do a simple query. It's okay. And the only table I have is the member table. So that's the table that Microsoft Access is going to offer up to me. I would like all of the fields. So I'll select those and click next. And then I can open the query to view my information. Now notice it looks just like my table in Datasheet View, but I could change my query if I wanted to. Let's see if we could go to Design View. And let's say I want to sort by last name. I could add that. And then I could run it And now I see that my data is sorted by last name. I could do that in many different ways, but I can do that very easily in my query. Now, one other view that I have for my query is SQL view, and this will be really small, and it doesn't let me zoom in. I apologize. But if you look at the SQL view, this will give you the SQL select statement that was used to create that query. So sometimes as you're learning how to use the database, this can be really helpful to you to allow access to generate that SQL code for you and then copy it and paste it to try it in different places. Now our member table development is basically complete, so I'm going to close out my database, and in the next video we'll use this little database in an application. Thank you.